I'm Tabby.
And I'm Caitlin, and today we are doing a too long didn't read of The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. It's
And you
sad.
guys are so welcome. I've already read this. Caitlin's already read this. And I forgot how traumatizing it is. And so just revisiting that was rough.
It's upsetting and it's kind of awful that kids have to read it, but at the same time, we live in a horrible, horrible world.
Yeah, that is just a wild thing for a high schooler to have to read.
Yeah, but it's even wilder is that children even younger than that are
Or
living in that
experiencing this.
reality.
That's
So,
true.
hate it. Anyway, we kind of want to start off by just like reading the description on Goodreads for you. And if you are struggling to actually read the book, if you need a good synopsis, Cliff Notes and Spark Notes do already have that, out on the internet. 1970s Afghanistan, 12-year-old Amir is desperate to win the local kite fighting tournament, and his loyal friend Hassan promises to help him. But neither of the boys can foresee what would happen to Hassan that afternoon, an event that is to shatter their lives. After the Russians invade and the family is forced to flee to America, Amir realizes that one day he must return to Afghanistan under Taliban rule to find the one thing that his new world cannot grant him: redemption.
Did it ruin everyone's life or did it just ruin Hassan's life? That is bold to say that one day ruined everyone's life.
Yeah, we'll get into that. We'll discuss that. But let's start off with, what would you rate this book?
So I hate this book, but it's so good. And so
Yes.
I'm not going to, do it disjustice by giving a low rating because it doesn't deserve that. I did give it a 7.16 out of 10. Like I said, I am traumatized. And while it is a very important book, I do not personally like it.
Yeah. So 100% agreed. While the story itself is an absolute masterpiece, I personally don't like it because it is so heartbreaking. And for me, when I read, it's more of an escapism type thing. And so to read things that are based in the horror that is reality is kind of tough for me. But that being said,
is that bad to say? Maybe, but
yeah,
that's not why I read.
Yeah, it's just not why I read, and everyone has different reasons for reading.
We want to do a full literature review just in case people do need this to write essays or they're having a hard time, looking at the different devices that are used throughout the book. So we'll cover, the characters, the different themes, as well as like some symbolism. And then I don't think we're doing discussion questions this time, just because if you're doing an essay, you should have already been given some.
Yeah, and also I just think like the discussion questions, it's going to vary just based on like your personal class, like whatever they're discussing, but we should cover all of the basics that you might need. But yeah, we'll start with the characters. So we have Amir, our main character and narrator.
Love-hate relationship with Amir, and it's hard to fault him because he is a child in the beginning here. And again, we'll talk a bit more about some of the themes, and classism and racism do play a big prevalent role in this story. And I feel like Amir sets a really good example for what it's like to grow up in an environment with a lot of hate and resentment towards like certain people. And so again, he's a child and it's hard to be mad at him, and he does have a ton of growth throughout the book. But he made some very poor choices that did lead to a life of a lot of trouble for him.
He did, and it sucks because it's like, yeah, he is a child. Like, he shouldn't have been faced with these situations, but he was, and he made the wrong choice, and he literally regrets it for the rest of his life.
Every single day of this book.
So yeah, we'll start by kind of talking about his relationship with his father. And so he calls him Baba, which is, I'm assuming like the literal translation is father. So he feels jealous a lot of the time of the affection that Baba shows Hassan, because he, again, is growing up in a place where racism and classism is commonplace, and the Hazara citizens are seen as second-class citizens, which is what Ali and Hassan are. And also they live there as their servants, as Baba and Amir's servants. So he kind of like sees them as less than. And so it really gets under his skin when Baba shows affection towards someone who
Is deemed as less than.
Yeah, exactly. Because he feels like he doesn't get that from Baba. And he's also extremely jealous of Hassan's relationship with his own father, Ali, because they are very affectionate and tender towards each other, which is really all Amir ever wanted. He's honestly a sensitive boy.
Yeah.
And I feel so, so bad for him to have been in this place growing up in this type of world, because he just wants to write his little stories and give hugs to his dad, and he can't. Like, that's all he wants.
Well, and like he does have, a secondary father figure as well. He has Raheem, which I don't think, at the time he really understood that Raheem was like the only one really cheering him on and was that like really, strong support that he needed, because Raheem could see, where his father fell short, what he could do to like kind of take his spot there. And so I feel like he was a really undervalued character.
Oh, for sure. No, Raheem is an extremely important character later on too as a plot device.
Yeah.
And he is he's the one always offering like grace and redemption to Amir, besides Hassan.
Sure.
But Amir like can't stand it when it comes from Hassan because he feels like he doesn't deserve it. But from Raheem, it kind of feels less like a slap in the face to him.
Sure.
Because he didn't directly betray Raheem.
For Amir, a big part of his character is that he is just constantly plagued by guilt. So, and he's always seeking redemption for himself, even at a young age. So, when he was born, his mother died, and he kind of felt like he was guilty for that his entire childhood. He was not a good friend to Hassan. And after, the incident with Hassan, he felt guilt over not standing up for him, but it didn't make him, really want to become stronger friends with them, because I think partially he was ashamed at how he acted, but also he was still just, feeling a lot of those values that were placed upon him and still felt like he was kind of better than Hassan to apologize. And, just continued to turn a blind eye to the torment that Hassan received. And that part of the book always just makes me cry a little bit. It's sad. I like have a hard time getting past it every time. But he does just continue to feel that torment all the way into his adulthood, which does lead him to eventually go and rescue Hassan's child and try to find some redemption in himself as well.
A lot of the behaviors that he displayed early on was him as a young child. So he learns about the racism and oppression of the Hazara people in a book that he just found in his mother's old collection of books. So he learns about it and he like shows his teacher, and his teacher's like, oh, that's not true. Like the Hazara people, they just pretend to be martyrs and blah, blah, blah. So he is very confused, and for good reason.
Yeah.
He's trying to understand the realities of the world, and he's being grossly influenced by these awful people. So yeah, that really affected a lot of things. And like when Hassan tried to like not criticize necessarily, but he like brought up a plot hole in a story that Amir wrote, Amir immediately feels defensive and is like, what do you know? You're illiterate Hazara, you're nothing, you're a servant. And he didn't say that out loud, but those were the feelings that he had internalized.
That he immediately thought, and he was immediately ashamed of it.
Yes, I know. And it's just this back and forth of that.
When he and his father moved to America, I think that's kind of his first sense of like escape from what he was living. It was a chance to kind of start over, escape from his guilt, but it's overshadowed by, memories of Hassan, because he does just feel so much about his past. So when he marries Soraya, he can't help but wonder, what life Hassan had and if he ever got married. And so he does continue to just pop up constantly. When he published his first novel, he remembers how Hassan told him that he would be a great writer someday. And so he had that continuous loyalty from Hassan in his life that continues to just kind of almost embitter him, and he can't fully escape his past.
And he feels like he deserves all of the torment as well because of how guilty he feels. And he even sees Soraya's infertility as a punishment for what he had done in his past. And he's like, yeah, I deserve that. I don't deserve to be a father. Like, it's very ingrained in his every waking moment.
So Baba is probably my least favorite character in this book. I think that Amir just really has him on a pedestal for the first part of it. And because he has him in such high regard, he constantly tries to hide who he truly is or like how he wants to be or what he's passionate about so that Baba isn't like disappointed in him. Because I feel like Baba is also just like a very troubled character as well. And
Yeah.
he wasn't fully, showing who he was as a person. He, I think, really followed some of the guidelines set for him as like what a man should be in their culture, and he instilled that into Amir as well, and it just caused like a very toxic relationship between the two.
Yeah. I think one of the major themes throughout this novel is clear is just the generational trauma that's passed on. Because so Baba is probably like that because of how he grew up, but he's very disappointed in Amir's like interests and hobbies, and he wants him to be more of a traditionally masculine son. And he even at one point he's talking to Rahim Khan after they go to like this tournament where they're like on horses and stuff. This guy falls off his horse and gets trampled to death. And so Amir cried because he was a child who just witnessed a man get trampled to death. And Baba is telling Rahim Khan basically like, I wish that he was different. Like, it's a good thing that you're here because you're the only one who could understand him. Like, he's saying that to Rahim. And Amir overhears all of it through the door, and it absolutely crushes his little spirit. Like, it's so sad.
Well, and I think that's really what kind of set everything into motion as well, as that night hearing just like how disappointed Baba actually was in him, because not long after that is when they have like the kite tournament, and when Hassan gets raped,
he's like, I have to win.
He is like, I have to show my father that I can be the man he wants me to be. And so that was like such an integral like turning point in the book. But it's like, I don't know, I think another thing that just really kind of ticks me off is that like Baba kind of picks and chooses like when he wants to, I don't know if like continue in the way he was raised like makes sense, but like when it comes to Hassan and Ali, obviously he's like a little more attached to them because Hassan's like his actual son and whatever, and he can't fully recognize that he's his son, and so he takes it out on Amir. But when Amir asks if he ever thought about replacing the servants, Baba becomes enraged that Amir would ever suggest that, and like said that like they're family and they aren't going anywhere. I think that's also very confusing for Amir too, because he constantly hears that like the Hazaras are people you want to avoid and like you don't want to be associated with them. And like with his father being such a like public figure, I'm sure that like also causes even more confusion in Amir as well, because he thinks he's supposed to act a certain way, but Baba doesn't do that, but he does other things a certain way.
For sure. Because
so he's not sure how he's supposed to act.
Yeah, Amir even like he's pondering one time about, because Baba and Ali, they grew up together. They were raised together because Ali was taken in by Baba's father. And Amir is like, of all the stories they share together of like, growing up so close, Baba never once refers to Ali as his friend.
Right.
And so in that same way, Amir is like, well, I guess then that means Hassan is not my friend, because like Baba's not Ali's friend. Like there's this rift between them because of the classism and the racism in their world, in their society. And so he's like, he is confused when Baba reacts like that and is like, they're our family, you bring me shame, how could you say such a thing? He's like, whoa,
but who are these people to us?
Yeah, because he's like, that's not what you say. Like, you've never once called him your brother or your friend.
Well, and the first time he ever sees Baba cry is when Ali and Hassan are leaving after Amir, accuses Hassan of theft. And so again, that just, Baba had just been upfront with Amir, and I'm sure he was maybe embarrassed, I don't know, of like having an illegitimate son.
I'm sure.
Or just the fact that, I mean, he probably couldn't claim him, and Hassan, well, Amir might have acted different towards Hassan if he had known like that was his blood brother. And so maybe Baba was trying to protect him in that sense so that
Mhm.
they didn't create like that kinship. But I think if he'd just been like upfront about it, like so many things could have been avoided.
I mean, it's this entire book is like, what if
Yeah.
could things have turned out better?
Because like I think about too when Amir and Hassan are like flying the kite in the tournament and they win, they like hug for a second, and Amir's like, "Yeah, my dad's gonna be so proud of this." And he turns around, his dad's like, "Quit doing that! Like, why are you hugging in public?"
I
But then
know.
behind closed doors, he's like, "No, you treat them like family."
Yeah, he's like, how dare you? And then also, like, again, with the double standards with Baba. So when Baba and Amir are in like the fuel truck or whatever, and they're fleeing, and the Russian soldier is like, I'll let you pass if you give me 30 minutes with that woman in the back of the truck. And so Baba is like, you're a
Heck
disgrace, you're
no.
disgusting. No, and Amir is worried that Baba's going to get shot by this soldier. So he's like, Baba, sit down. And Baba turns on Amir and he's like, haven't I taught you anything? Like, have a spine kind of thing. And it's like, Baba, you're one to talk.
Like you're a
Like,
coward. You slept with this man's wife,
yeah. And it's so
and
confusing for Amir because he doesn't even know all of that about Baba. But like, it's so confusing because he's never seen him like stand up for people before in this way.
yeah, and even like when they moved to like when they get to America, like he is so frustrated because like they don't have like all this wealth that they had, and like he doesn't understand like what the new normal kind of looks like, and he can't come to terms with the way things are like in the new area they're in. And he still kind of takes it out on Amir, I feel like, and he's like every time Amir's like, all right, this is like a brand new start for us, like I'm gonna follow my dreams, I'm gonna do all this, Baba's like, no.
Yeah,
Like, why would you, what makes you think he can do that? But then like
exactly.
when Amir graduates, I think it was from high school or college, I can't remember. Baba gets him a car and he's like, I am so proud of you and you're going to be the greatest writer and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what is happening?
It's the mixed signals for me. Yeah, he 100% is like, I understand why he is so like his life has been turned upside
Sure.
down. And so I understand why he's so frustrated. But yeah, he does continue to kind of use Amir as an emotional punching bag. And Amir can't even cry in
He's like,
front of
I
him.
can't keep up.
Yeah. And then when he's freaking diagnosed with terminal cancer and Amir cries, he literally has to leave the room because he's like, well, Baba hates it when I cry. And
It's
Baba's
like,
like,
you're,
and don't you tell a soul because I swear to God, if there's any sympathy in this household,
yeah.
like,
And he's like, I'm not getting treatment. Like, what do you think I am? Some like coward? It's like, well, yeah, kind of. But
yeah,
like,
he's got such a twisted view of like what it means to be a
what like
man.
right and wrong is. And
Yeah. And it's honestly sad because it's because that's how he was raised.
right. And I
Poor
do
Amir.
think at the end, like he was like genuinely happy
Yes.
for Amir and like he was very proud of him. But I hate that he waited till he was on his deathbed to show any form of like remorse towards. I
Yeah.
mean, he didn't really even show remorse. Like he never really apologized or anything.
No,
Like
he just like silently showed that he was proud and happy. Like
he's like, "Oh, good,
whenever,
you're marrying from a good, well-known family. Like good for
yeah,
you, son."
he was like, I'm so proud of you. And then whenever Soraya first moved in and kind of was taking care of him, they were, Baba and Soraya were reading Amir's old stories that he wrote in the journal that Rahim Khan gave him back in Kabul. And so that made Amir feel extremely like touched and emotional. But again,
Yeah.
he literally left the room because he was like, well, if Baba sees me cry, it'll ruin it.
I don't feel like his father had any form of redemption whatsoever in this book. Because on his deathbed, he still chose not to tell Amir about Hassan. He had to hear that from Rahim Khan.
Yeah.
You know, he never like kind of hashed it out with him and told him about why he raised him the way that he did. So he had, I don't think, any regrets on his life. Like he really thought he was doing things the way they should be done.
Yep. And he was just like, well, my son has this, he's found his family here and I can die now. And
He's
he
like,
died.
well, my life's complete.
Yeah, which is like, it's so sad
Like it
because
really wasn't.
they never had that moment of like a mutual respect or anything, and it's tragic.
Let's talk about my sweet, sweet angel Hassan, who deserved more than anyone else in this fucking book, besides say like Ali. Like Ali deserved the world as well.
Yeah.
But those two like were just absolutely shit on by the world. And they just took it in stride.
They really did. It was like the part of the Bible when it like whenever they get slapped across one cheek and they turn
You
their cheek
offer
to
the
get
other.
slapped on the
Yeah.
other. And
That
Hassan
is them.
would have done anything for Amir.
And
And
like you just don't see that type of loyalty. And Amir took that for granted. Like Hassan was a ride or die in the
he
most
was.
literal term.
Yeah, like I'm I'm not exaggerating here. At one point, Amir is like, would you eat dirt if I asked you? And you could see, like, he saw a shift in Hassan's face because Hassan was so hurt by that question. He was like,
Of course I would.
would you ask me to do that? And he's like so hurt that this like love and loyalty is not being returned to him.
Or like with the pomegranates when Amir is like pelting him with the pomegranates and Hassan was like, here, let me just take it a step further and like smashes it into his own face. He's like, are you happy
Yeah,
now?
I know. God, I hate that part because Amir's really just not dealing with his own shit. He's like, hit me back, like I deserve it. Like, how about you just say sorry? It's not that hard.
Gosh, like that poor child. And like whenever Amir places like all of this stuff and like frames Hassan for like stealing him, like Hassan was just like, all right, friend, like if that's what you need to like find some peace, like I'm willing to let it go.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know, like how could Amir in that moment just not fully break down and be like, I'm sorry, like it was me. Like,
Yeah.
don't send my friend away. I think Ali was embarrassed because I don't know if he thought Hassan actually did it or not, but I mean, he was just such a strictly religious man
Mm-hmm.
that he was like, yeah, no, like you brought shame to our family, like we have to go. And it's like
Yeah.
one simple word could have saved all of them.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, Amir wonders if Hassan like told Ollie the truth, and I doubt it. I think
I
that
doubt it.
Hassan was so loyal to Amir that he just, yeah, fully took the blame and let everyone believe it was him. And that part hurts so bad when they're leaving in the car and it's raining and Amir is like, if this was one of the movies that Hassan and I used to go see together in the theater, like I would run after him and I would tell him it was me and that I'm sorry, but I didn't do that. Why didn't you do that?
Right. No, and then just so we don't really know like much about Hassan after they moved to the United States until he goes and talks to Rahim Khan and he was like, I went and found Hassan and they were living in a mud hut. They had nothing.
Yeah.
And I brought him back and they lived with us. But that was a terrible mistake because you know what he got out of it? He got shot in
Yeah.
the street.
And what's even more like heartbreaking about all of that is whenever they did go back to live with Rahim Khan, Hassan refused to live in the main house. He
I
chose to live in the
know.
mud hut there because he was like, what would Amir say? He would think it's so disrespectful if I was trying to replace him.
God, they're so broken and it's so sad. It is so, so sad. And like just the way he and his wife are taken out too. It's like they've, given their lives to these people to protect their house, to protect all the things that made Baba and Amir proud, like all the, monetary and like physical things that made them proud. They're like, well, I'll give my life to,
To
make sure
stand
it's
for
still in
them.
order. Yeah.
It's the most tragic thing. And Hassan, his heart and his wife's heart, they're just so pure. And I think that is especially shown too whenever Hassan's mother came back, Sanabar.
Fuck that lady.
fuck that lady. And she's
Little
like,
fucking
please forgive
hell.
me. He did. He forgave her
He
and
was like,
told
yeah,
her to
girl.
live with them because they're family.
Like he was just too good for the world. He
He
truly
deserves
was. He deserves so much
everything
more.
and nobody deserves him. And it's just the saddest thing I've ever read.
And
And
like the note that Hassan left for Amir, I cried when I read it. I was just like, stop it.
he wrote this whole letter to him. He was like, I can't wait to one day be reading a letter from you and see a photograph of you. And after Amir learns all of this, and Rahim admits that they're half brothers, there's a quote
God.
that I've put in here. It's when he decided that like he had to redeem himself. So it says, Hassan had loved me once, loved me in a way that no one ever had or ever would again. He was gone now, but a little part of him lived on. It was in Kabul waiting. And so that's when he decided he was going to go and he was going to rescue Sarab from the Taliban.
I was so fucking proud of him. Like that
I
was
know,
when
but it's
I
like it
truly
took
I
so
know.
much.
But like I was just like I really did love that character development for Amir. Like I do think he found a sliver of redemption. At the cost it came, was it worth it? No. But did he try to? Yeah, and I'll give him that.
Sure had a lot of people die before
But
it
like
came to this,
he
but
certainly could have stopped it well before then. Um, let's talk about Raheem Khan. Also, like not a perfect man
yeah,
by any means.
nobody is except for Hassan.
He did straight up lie to Amir about like having a safe place for fuck, what was his name?
Sarab.
Sarab.
Yeah, he was like, he'll take him in.
Yeah, he knew he would too, because he knew that as bad as it is, like that was the only way for Amir to like fully forgive himself was
Yeah.
by stepping in as Sarab's like father figure and giving him what Hassan never had.
Yeah.
And I
Which
was
is
like,
like
that's pretty fucked up, but
so fucking sad. But Rahim Khan was Baba's best friend, business partner, and another father figure to Amir. And I thought that his past was interesting as well. So
mm-hmm.
when he's telling all of this stuff to Amir when he's an adult. Oh no, wait, this is when he was a child. This was his 13th birthday.
Yeah, because he was trying, I think he was trying in a way to like really
To
connect
get
with
him,
Amir.
and he was trying to get him to open up about what happened with Hassan because Rahim
Yes.
Khan knew.
Yeah.
He tells Amir the story about when he was 18, he fell in love with Humaira, who was a Hazara woman and the daughter of one of his neighbor's servants. And when he told his family, like they were appalled, like people were fainting.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was the most egregious display. And his father immediately sent her and her family away on the same day, had them shipped off, and was like, how dare you? You're a disgrace. And so he tells Amir this story in the hopes that he'll like try to right the wrongs and, you know, bring Hassan and Ali back into their lives. But Amir just couldn't, I guess. And that's the same day he gave him the journal to write his stories.
I feel like Raheem Khan and Baba like were lovers that never were, you know? Like
Ooh,
and that's just in my own head, but like I
that's
felt like
headcanon.
they were almost like two sides of the same coin where Baba was like so set in his ways that he raised Amir the way he thought he should, whereas Raheem Khan like just understood Amir in a way that Baba
Yeah.
never could.
Yeah. And Amir, even at one point, he's like, I always saw Rahim Khan as like the alter ego of Baba,
Yeah,
where it's like everything that Baba lacked, Rahim Khan had, basically.
exactly.
Um, so they kind of made up two halves of a parent for Amir in a
Which
way.
is hard because like as much as Raheem Khan tried to help Amir, that was not his father. And so I think he just took everything he said with a grain of salt
Yeah.
until Baba was long gone and Raheem Khan was, you know, 1 foot in the ground himself.
Yeah.
And
He was like this pile of bones pretending to be Rahim Khan when he answered the door. And I was like, God damn. So he
I
ain't
mean,
looking
he
good.
wasn't looking good. But Raheem was definitely, I think, kind of his like guiding star almost. Like that was like his moral compass throughout the book.
Yes.
So I feel like they were almost like the devil and angel on Amir's shoulders, like throughout the entire book, like where Raheem was like, telling him how to be the man he was supposed to be, while Baba was the man telling him like how he thinks he should be.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it because a lot of times their advice was conflicting.
Yeah.
And I think Amir felt like socially he had to do what Baba was saying was the right thing to do. But then again, with all the confusion with Baba being like, how dare you say that? They're our family. Have I taught you nothing? Like Amir was so confused about how to behave.
Yeah. God bless Raheem Khan. He was a good man.
Yeah.
He was a good man.
Who was not a good man?
Asef.
Yeah. So Asef he is the villain of the story. He represents the most disgusting. Yeah, he's extremely cruel and violent. He's racist, bigoted, a fascist. And Amir is afraid of him, which is totally fair. Like as a child, this is his childhood bully. And Amir, even as a child, like he didn't know what was quite wrong with him, but he was like, I learned as an adult that Asif is what they call a sociopath.
Yeah, yeah, he is
fucking insane.
He just craved like control in the most twisted way possible.
And his own parents were afraid of him.
Well, and I also feel like he was maybe dealing with like some feelings that he like probably couldn't work through very well, and like
probably
you can't rape people. You just cannot rape people.
You just can't.
You cannot do that.
Say it.
Like what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
And I don't know, the parallels in this book are so wild, and we'll talk about them as well. But like he is always the person like taking the innocence of others. And yes. I don't know what to classify that as in terms of like symbolism, because he does that to Hassan and then he immediately does it again to Sarab.
Yeah.
He's just not right.
He is the caricature of like what people kind of consider like extremists, because he's the Taliban. And as a kid, like he's no different. He was literally wanting to be a part of something like that.
He was like, he gave Amir, on his 13th birthday, he gave Amir like Hitler's manifest. Did he give him Mein Kampf or just like
I think he gave him a biography of Hitler.
Okay.
But yeah, he prior to that and prior to what he did to Hassan, he was telling them how Hitler was a great leader, and the guy that overthrew the king of Afghanistan, I can't remember his name.
Brother.
Yeah. He was like,
or his cousin,
he's gonna be great. He's gonna be just like Hitler.
We're gonna do cultural cleansing and
whenever he was full on in the Taliban and like an adult, he literally says ethnic cleansing. I love the sound of that. Or like some whack shit.
Jesus Christ.
It is like he is a cartoon villain, except that people in like him exist in real life.
It's so scary. He's so scary. And like nothing happened to him either. Like
no, he lost an eye, but
I know, but it's like
still doing
he didn't die.
But I mean, I think that's realistic too, because like what can you do?
Nothing.
That's the reality of the situation, and that's why it's so fucking sad. But what I don't get, when Amir was a child, I don't get why he never told Baba about Asef's behavior, because Baba would have been like, ew, like what a piece of shit, because Baba didn't stand for that kind of thing.
No, but I also think on the same token here, Baba would have been like, at least he is standing, like he's showing like the confidence to do what he thinks is right type of thing.
Maybe, but I don't even think so, because Baba was so appalled by these people. Like he was appalled by the Russian soldier for his behavior too when they were fleeing. Like, because what really bothered Amir is that on his birthday, Asef showed up and like was charming Baba. But like if he had just told him, hey, this guy is actually really crazy,
right,
and saying these horrible things, then Baba would have been like, get the fuck out of my house.
I don't know. Maybe it was like a social thing.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
not
not sure
sure.
because they came from like a well-off family as well.
Yeah. And
I
yeah,
don't
I
know.
don't know, like culturally, like maybe you don't talk to your parents about your peers in that culture. I don't know.
I really don't. But dude was a psycho for sure.
Yeah.
And we'll talk more about Asaf later as well. He does pop up throughout the entire book. He just never leaves. He's like a cockroach. So Ali is another, just too good for this world character that is Hassan's father. Such a sweet, sweet, sweet man. He is just devoutly religious. He prays, every day. He instills those things into Hassan as well, which I do feel like Amir is really jealous of. Like,
Mhm.
Baba is not a religious man. He makes fun of a lot of like the religious figures in the book, and that, in turn makes Amir not extremely religious. But I think just like seeing the way that Ali just values his religion and the way that Hassan does as well, like just almost creates like some not resentment, but I think jealousy because he
Mhm.
doesn't have that with his own father.
Yeah, for sure. And the first night that there was like unrest and they heard like gunfire and stuff, that was the night the king was overthrown. Baba actually wasn't at home. It was
Mm.
Hassan, Ali, and Amir. And Hassan and Ali were like holding each other, and Amir was jealous of even that. Like he wanted to
Yeah.
feel safe and feel held by his own father.
And just the fact that Ali can still just be so loving is crazy. So he is disfigured, he's deformed. Um, and I know they don't talk a lot about like how he ended up marrying his wife, but she was a little hoe
Mm-hmm.
even when they were married, and they knew that before they got married, and she continued after that,
Yeah.
and like constantly just belittled him and made fun of him and his
Yeah.
physical appearance, which is horrible. He knew he couldn't have children, and so when his wife did become pregnant, like he was like, I'll still love this baby no matter what. And just like the fucking loyalty to Baba, knowing that he did that with his wife and had a bastard son
It
and
makes me
still loving
wonder
him.
though. I know, and it makes me wonder, did he know it was Baba's illegitimate child, or did he just never know who the father was?
I bet he knew just based off the way Baba treated him and his son.
Probably.
I bet he figured it out pretty quick.
Yeah. But still, just the unwavering loyalty to Baba and Amir, like anyway.
Ugh, such a good man. And
Ugh.
he died a very tragic death as well. He
Mm-hmm.
was part of the first round of like their ethnic cleansing, which I don't know, it just makes my stomach hurt to think about
Yeah.
it.
Bad things happen to good people. I hate it. Next we'll talk about
Soraya,
Soraya.
such a lovely character.
So, yes, agreed. Soraya, she is this lovely Afghan woman that Amir meets in America in their little community that they have there. And he is down bad from the moment he sees her. He's like, girl, the way your eyebrows touch in the middle. He and
And he
I'm not
was
even
so
kidding.
troubled about that whole part of the story. She
That is
texted me at 2 in the morning and was like, what the fuck?
that is canon. He loved the unibrow, but he takes forever to make a move because he's kind of shy. Okay, he's a shy boy.
He's a shy guy.
But their love is so sweet. And like it was really interesting. I learned a lot about like the Afghan culture of like courtship and engagement.
Yes.
And I never knew anything about it before reading. Well, I mean, I've read this
Because
book before, but I was like
General Tahiri was
16.
like, you are certainly not doing it the right way. And he was like,
Yeah,
my bad.
I know. He was like, how dare you be in here speaking to her without like me present, kind of thing. And something that is like so, so sweet. And it honestly, it happens because something sad happens, but he only allows himself to cry when he's with Soraya.
I
So,
know.
like, after Baba passes away, he finally like is
Grieving.
tired of holding back the tears because he hasn't cried the entire time Baba's
Yeah.
been sick, at least in front of Baba. And so he's like, I'm going to cry with you because I feel comfortable enough. So that makes me
Yeah.
feel a little better.
She's just so pure.
Yeah.
And like she didn't even hesitate to like take care of Baba. Like I know like when Sarab moved in with them, she probably just loved him so much and like took care of him and tried to like relate to him as much as possible. Um,
I also just think she's so, so pure because like all she ever wanted in life was to teach and like to bring people joy and learning. And that's her passion. And when her dad is basically like, you don't want to do something successful, like be a lawyer, she's like
Nar.
so hurt by that because she thinks what she does is success and important.
I also just love like at the end there too. So like it's post 9/11, it's like 2002. So obviously, there's still a lot of tensions towards like Middle Eastern individuals, but they still make sure like they go and support like everyone who holds like the festivals, and they like try to build like a community and like really just show their support. And so I know like a big part of that was probably Soraya as well. And like
Yeah.
just like she wants to educate people on like their own culture.
Yeah, that was the other thing that's so tragic about this book too, because it's like as soon as Amir and Soraya and Sarab, they find this little modicum of peace and happiness, it's a post 9/11 world in America. And it's like, okay, well,
They just cannot win.
here comes this brand new, horrible piece of
It's like,
shit
oh, you
existence.
thought you were experiencing like just inner racism within your own group of people? Awesome. Well, now it's everyone else too.
It's really, really tragic. And
And I
I
just
feel
want to
like
talk
if there were
about
a sequel to this book specifically, it would not be happy.
no. And that makes me want to talk about Sarab really quick. He had a very small part in this book. It wasn't towards the end that we even meet Sarab, but he was so impactful to the story and Amir's redemption arc as well. So he was taken from his parents by the Taliban. His parents were killed. He was put into an orphanage. They went through taking specifically little boys and dressing them up to look like harem members and like feminizing them so that they could sexually abuse them. And so he experienced the same abuse that his father did at his age, which again, just it almost was more disgusting than what happened to Hassan, because like with Hassan, it was like a punishment almost, but like for Sarab, he didn't do anything except be Hazara.
Mm-hmm.
And like had to experience that over and over and over, and was so vehemently against going back to his old life that he was like, I'd rather kill myself than return back to where I was from. And that broke my heart.
And to feel that at such a young age, like it
Can you hear
doesn't
me?
even compute. And it hurt so much when he was telling Amir that he was dirty and full of sin because of those abuses
No.
that he suffered. Like Amir was like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Like
He's
he was
like, you're
so,
beautiful.
I know, like it's everything that he wanted to tell Hassan, but he never got the chance.
I'm just so glad that Sarab did not die in the book and that Amir did get a chance to like bond with him, because I feel like that would have just absolutely broken Amir as well, and he probably would have followed not long after.
Yep. Yep. We were two shakes away from everyone just killing
Just
themselves.
yeah, like it was really touch and go there.
Uh, so yeah, that's all of the characters. Are we too sad or can we keep going? I don't
I
know.
think we can keep going. We are going to just kind of break it up for you. So, answering some important questions that you'll probably have to cover in an essay. So we'll start with some of the themes in this book. Redemption's the biggest one, but I don't want to talk about that one first. So I would like to talk about religion first, because this also does play a very large role throughout the story. And I talked about this a little bit with Baba as well. So Baba was not a religious man, and so Amir therefore also was not a religious man. And his lack of religion allows him to look past certain aspects that other people wouldn't be able to. So, like Soraya, for example, everyone thought just because of her past, life experiences that she was not worthy or that she was like considered dirty. And Amir was like, what do you mean? Like,
Yeah.
this is the most perfect person I've ever seen in my life. And it did bother him at first, I think.
And he
When
said he acknowledged that it was his pride.
Yes, but it didn't bother him about loving her. It was
Right.
more just like his own personal beef that he needed to work through. But you also see like that's growth from how he was because he did still have like those prejudices and stuff, but just in terms of like their faith and like how it affects like other people and their choices that they make in life, I feel like it didn't really bother him as much as it would like his father or like Ali or General
No.
Tahiri.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing is, though, even though Ali was extremely devout in his faith, he also was kind of like he was very forgiving of
Yes,
like Sanabar's sexual history and stuff too.
but they did practice two different forms of their religion
That's true.
because the Hazaras, I think it was like a Sunni
So
religion, and
they are let me look up how to pronounce this.
so I think that makes a difference too in like the way they, practice their own beliefs.
Shia. So the Hazara people are Shia Islam, and the Pashtuns
Are
are
Sunni.
Sunni
Okay,
Islam.
I just had it backwards.
Yeah.
But when Amir does pray, you always notice that it is just out of sheer desperation. Like it is when he is at the lowest of lows. So the first time we see that is when Baba is diagnosed with lung cancer. Amir acknowledges his religion. And then when Sarab is in the hospital, he prays every single day that he survives his attempt. And so those, I think with Sarab especially, he's almost channeling Ali and like what he saw him doing. And because that is Ali's grandson, like it meant even more to him to like
Yeah.
pray for Sarab. And so it is really impactful to Amir in, times of absolute desperation.
Which is like an interesting take on religion in itself, because I think there are some people who don't consider themselves religious, but whenever something happens where they feel desperate, they might pray to someone, something.
To whoever's listening.
Exactly. So it's an interesting thing about our human nature, I think.
But on the same side, we also see the bastardization of religion in this as well, or people who are using religion for their own means. And Asif is a good example of this. He and the rest of the Taliban used religion as a means to justify their cruel behavior. So with like the ethnic cleansing, with the brutalization and raping of, women and specifically children in this story, as well as just like this strict rules that they've placed upon like all their people so that they just have absolute control of everything that's happening, all in, the name of their religion.
Yeah. And then the people like Ali who are devout Muslims, like I think Rahim Khan, no, it was when he was with, when Amir was with Farid and they see someone be stoned to death or multiple people. And basically they're like, and they dare call themselves Muslims because the Taliban is not like representing the religion in the way that the people who truly are religious want them to.
Right.
So you see every end of the spectrum represented in this book.
Which is, how they intended. They want to show, both sides. Like, yes, it can be good, but it can also be bad.
Yeah, for sure. And on that same token, there is the theme of racism throughout the book. So in Afghanistan, systemic racism is it's just a part of their foundation of society, much like it is in many countries, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And Ali and Hassan are treated as second-class citizens for being Hazara. they face so much discrimination, and even Baba feels like he can't fully show them how much he loves them and cares for them because of that like wedge that's between them. And then of course Asif and the Taliban murder Hazaras to purify Afghanistan. That's a big thing. They were really targeted right off the bat. Like whenever the king was overthrown, Asif the next day is literally like, yeah, we're coming for you, and our country's going to be pure again. Like he's literally cornering them in an alley, like telling them this. And then Amir's inaction towards the brutalities against Hassan, because he again had that internalized like classism and racism embedded in him from birth. Like he always knew that Hassan was different than him. He looked different. He lived in a mud hut while Amir lived in a mansion. Like that was clear to him. And so I think that played a large role in his decision to not step in, along with, being a child and being terrified of this boy who was doing the brutalizing. That plays a large role too, because I'm sure that's a very, very scary situation.
Another big theme is redemption. I think that's probably the biggest one throughout this entire story.
Mm-hmm.
Amir himself is just constantly trying to redeem his past. So from his birth, redeeming himself for what he considers the murder of his mother, which I think Baba kind of holds against him as well.
Yeah.
Even though it's not his fault. I think Baba does try to redeem himself, but not in a good way. It's trying to redeem himself like monetarily almost. So like trying to redeem his social standing. So like when they moved to America, like he lost everything. He was no longer, high in like their social classes. He had nothing, and like was constantly trying to give things monetarily but fall short because he can't really give Amir like what he actually craves and what he deserves. Right. And so like he'll give him a car and to show like his love for him, that he's proud of him in his own way. And all Amir wants is just for him to, talk to him and relate to him and like
say those
support
words.
him. Yeah. And so I think it's just like a different kind of redemption almost, but it still, kind of falls in line with that theme. And then of course, Amir trying to redeem himself in terms of like what was done to Hassan, and he does that by going and rescuing Sarab and giving him a home and acting as that father figure to give him what Hassan never had.
Yeah. You know what's interesting too about the monetary thing with Baba is he refused any sort of welfare when they moved to America because he was so prideful, and he was like, I've always worked for my money. I won't accept charity. Whereas General Tahiri is the opposite. He like refuses to do work that's beneath him.
Yes.
So he accepts the welfare because he's like, yeah, give me the money because I'm not going to do
I'm too good to work.
Blue collar job. Yeah, like he is like, I am above that. So that's an interesting
I didn't think of that. Yeah.
Interesting thing. Like it's almost like Baba did kind of do the more honorable thing there.
Sure.
But again, all we needed from Baba was to
he was doing it for the sake of his pride instead of for what was best for Amir.
No, you're right. You're right. Like he definitely, his pride played a large role in that. And same with General Tahiri.
Yeah.
And it's
but
like
I
neither
think that's
thing
just
is
like something that was instilled in them as young men.
Exactly. So yeah, I think Baba was trying his best to earn the respect of Amir, but that's not what Amir needed or wanted from him.
Yeah. Which really leads well into the next part of this. Another big theme in this is male relationships, specifically like father-son relationships. So there are a lot of really interesting dynamics between a lot of the characters in this, and pretty much all of them are males.
Yeah, and Amir
Um,
and Hassan, like their mothers just weren't around and they didn't have sisters. So there just were
yeah,
no women growing up basically in his life.
right. Baba's relationship with Amir and Hassan were both very troubled and very, very different. Because Baba cannot outright acknowledge Hassan, he takes it out on Amir and just really holds him to a higher standard than what I think he would if he were able to acknowledge Hassan.
Yeah.
And just nothing Amir does is good enough. He is too emotional. He's too soft. He's not dedicated to the right things. Whereas with Hassan, he wants to show him as much love as possible without outing himself, basically. And so with Hassan, like he pays for his lip surgery, and we'll talk about the cleft lip in a little bit because that holds a lot of symbolism throughout this book. But he pays for his lip surgery so that he can not rise in their social standing because they never will, but at least be treated better because he's not disfigured
Yeah.
physically. He gives him and Ali a place to live, pays him a decent wage. Like they're not living in poverty. Like they have everything they could need. And because that's all he can do to show his love outright. Whereas with Amir, he has every opportunity to show him love and chooses not to because he's torn between the two sons.
Yeah. It's almost like he doesn't want to show Amir love because then that's being unfair to Hassan. But then by doing that, it's unfair to Amir.
Because Amir treats Hassan unfairly.
Yeah, it's
a vicious cycle.
Horrible.
And like Baba views having a strong friendship as weak, which I never really got. And so it's not even showing a strong friendship, it's showing affection. And again, I think he's doing that because he's not able to show affection towards Hassan. And so he's like, no, you cannot show affection towards the people you love because that's not how it's done. And so that drives a big stake between the two boys because all Amir wants to do is make his father proud. And so he's willing to push away the only person who will ever be loyal to him to make a man who will never be happy.
Yeah, it's an impossible mission that he's off on. We do also see some positive like aspects of the relationships between these guys though, because we see Hassan and Ali's unwavering loyalty to Baba and Amir despite everything, which honestly is
I was like, we'll take positive in the loosest term possible here.
By positive, I guess we mean like wholesome and loving, but it's not necessarily a good thing. And then Rahim Khan's loyalty to the family despite knowing their innermost secrets, which Rahim Khan, I do think he should have tried harder to convince Baba to tell the boys the truth.
Yeah.
And I don't know, obviously we didn't see any of that. We don't know how much he tried to get him.
And maybe he did.
Maybe.
And Baba was just like, no, that's not how.
I could totally see that being exactly how it went because Baba was very prideful and very stubborn.
That might honestly be why Rahim Khan came, to Amir instead of through Baba, because he's like, well, if Baba's not willing to do it, I will be the one to step in for Amir.
Yeah, honestly, because he was like, he could see in Amir that Amir wanted to do the right thing, but he just, Amir always wanted to do the right thing. He always wanted to be good, but he didn't have the support and the tools readily at his disposal that he needed to always do the right thing. And I think that's what's the saddest thing about this whole book.
So depressing. So some symbolism in this book. There's three main ones that I really wanted to cover. So the first one is Hassan's cleft lip. So his lip in the beginning signifies his status because it shows that they don't have the money to fix it, that they, in addition to him being a Hazara, like he is disfigured as well. And so it's really just more ammo for people to treat him poorly. Because not only is he a low social class, but he's also disfigured and they can't afford it. And so that makes him, basically dirt beneath their feet. But Baba fixes that as a gift to him to show him affection. And he thinks that'll basically fix what he can't give him. And then later we see Amir getting his lip split by Asif, and it leaves him permanently disfigured as well. And so it almost like merges his identity with Hassan, and he's like, well, now I can always, basically have this piece of him, and I can, experience what he kind of experienced. And I don't know if that's necessarily true, but it does.
It might
Like,
kind of be because he lives in America now, in a post 9/11 America.
and so
So
again, like he's already treated like dirt, and now that he's disfigured as well, like he will experience that low social standing that Hassan did.
yeah, which is not
Terrible. It's
great.
terrible.
But I think it makes him feel better. It makes him feel like he's finally gotten the punishment that he deserves.
Yeah, it's what am I trying to think of the word? Atonement. He's like
Yeah.
atoning by like being in Hassan's shoes.
God damn, I hate this book, but it's necessary. The next thing that we want to talk about is the kites. And the kites, I would say, are the most prominent symbol throughout the novel. So at first, the kites symbolize a way for Amir to connect with Baba and earn his approval, because it's seen as like something to be really proud of if you win the kite that is cut last, so right before the last one standing. And so after the tournament, Baba's extremely proud of Amir because they win this trophy basically that everyone wants. And Amir finally feels like they're friends, but he can't enjoy it because that same day, Amir, he watched his friend get raped, and the kites take on this symbol of guilt for not stepping in and helping his friend. So he can't even enjoy any of the things that came with winning the tournament. And then we later see that the kites also symbolize like the culture of the Afghan people. And it's something that was very traditional for them, the kite fighting tournaments. But just 2 years before the Taliban massacred the Hazaras in Mazar, they banned kite fighting. So it's kind of like that stepping stone of their country being taken over by the Taliban. And then later, the kite symbolizes redemption because Amir, he finally flies a kite again with Sarab, and he acts as his kite runner, which is, it's full circle. He asks Sarab if he wants him to go run his kite for him. Sarab is broken and sad, but he nods, and he says for you 1,000 times over.
It's
and
so
he
sad.
runs after the kite, and it hurts my little heart. I can't.
It's so sad. It's so sad.
I
Oh my God.
can't.
Like that is just such a powerful sentence. Like the for you 1,000. Oh, stop. And then the last, and like honestly, this one's so sad. It's very deep as well, is the lamb. So Hassan and Sarab are both in separate occasions described as being lambs for the slaughter. And lambs are in their religion and in, the Christian religion as well, are often symbolized as sacrifice. So in Hassan's case, it was him sacrificing his body for the sake of his loyalty to Amir. And in Sarab's case, it was the sacrifice of his innocence, in which Amir ultimately saves him from. And so, unfortunately, both of these men are the sacrifice for Amir to like have a turning point in his life. And so when Hassan was raped, and he, sacrificed his body for the kite that Amir could give to his father to make him proud, it was a turning point for Amir because he understands that he is a terrible friend and that he now has this guilt that he'll carry with for the rest of his life. And then with Sarab, it was a chance for him to realize like, this is my time to step up and, redeem what I couldn't give Hassan and give this child like a better life. Unfortunately, they were just both used as the tools for that.
I hate it, but it's there. It's a
because
symbol.
I unfortunately I feel like that's all Ali and Hassan and Sarab would ever kind of be used as if they stayed in the life they were in. They were always going to be the tools in which those men needed to like build what they were going to be.
Yeah. Which, I mean, you could write a whole essay just about that
Oh,
concept.
yeah.
The last thing we're going to discuss about this novel are the parallels that show up. And we'll start with the pomegranate tree because I really like this
I
one.
love the pomegranate one. Yeah.
Yes. So the pomegranate tree is very important because that's the place where Hassan and Amir would go have a moment of friendship without worry. Like when they were kids, before all these horrible things happened, that's where they would go. And Amir would read stories to Hassan, which that part is not as pure as you would hope because he would kind of tease Hassan for being
He's like, haha,
illiterate,
you're
which
stupid and can't read.
he's a little prick as a kid, but it's fine. Um anyway, so that pomegranate tree, it bears fruit and it represents kind of, their friendship at its purest. But the spring after the kite tournament, Amir asks Hassan if they want to go there. He's going to read him a story he's written. But what he really is doing is confronting Hassan. He picks up a pomegranate and he is like, "What would you do if I hit you with this pomegranate?" And Hassan's silent. So Amir just starts pelting him with these pomegranates and he begs him to hit him back and even calls him a coward, which of course he's projecting.
Right.
And Hassan, being the sweet little loving, loyal boy that he is, he takes a pomegranate and crushes it against his own forehead. And he's like, "Are you happy now?" And leaves Amir there. And so this is kind of the turning point. Because when Amir finally returns to Afghanistan and learns of Hassan's death, he goes back to that pomegranate tree to see that it no longer bears fruit and it's withered. And so now at this point, this signifies the death of his friendship with Hassan, but also just a reminder of like everything that was taken from his country. His country used to be beautiful and a place where he felt at home, and he knows that he can no longer have that there. It's horrible.
It's really sad. The slingshot is also a parallel we see in the book. So Hassan first uses the slingshot as a form of protection for himself and Amir when he's being mistreated by Asef. This is prior to Hassan being raped. It's like their first interaction with Asef and his cronies.
Yeah.
But his
Goons.
goons, yeah. Amir protects the both of them despite, or not Amir, Hassan protects the both of them despite Amir still not being, like the greatest friend on earth, but the loyalty, he's like, I'll protect my friend with whatever I have. And so before Hassan dies, he gives Sarab his slingshot, and Sarab uses it once again to defend Amir from Asef, just like his father did. And this just shows that their family has always just been like considered like guardians, or like they're just the loyal men to Baba and Amir. And we continue to see that. And the cycle does break with Sarab because it's more of like a father-son bond rather than like a friend guardian type bond. But it's always that family that's seen like protecting Amir.
Yeah, 100%. And I think one of the really interesting things about like this particular parallel is that when Sarab shoots Asef, he shoots him in the left eye, which is where Hassan was aiming too.
Yeah.
And what he threatened to hit him with the first time. So it's like, hey, you've been warned. And my son's gonna take care of what I started.
What I wasn't able, yeah.
And then lastly, their old home. So Amir and Baba's home was a point of pride for them. They were very privileged, socially speaking, before the Russians invaded and the Taliban took over. And their home was beautiful. It was considered a mansion. And when Amir does return to Afghanistan, he finds that the house is in disarray and it looks smaller to him. And he just knows that this chapter of his life is closed forever. So again, it's really similar to when he finds that the pomegranate tree is shriveled. But it's more of a symbol of his homeland than it is the friendship with Hassan.
And he even says too, like when he leaves, that he knows that he'll never return to that country again. That is the Kite Runner in its entirety, and it's terrible, but it's amazing at the same time. And I will never read this book again. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we did
2
it for
times
you,
was
and we
too
won't do it
many.
again. But if you do like historical fiction and the sadness factor isn't a turnoff for you, Khaled Hosseini actually has multiple books that he's written that are beautiful and about the Afghan people and their cultures. And I think he's a really wonderful author, even though his work is hard for me to read. I think it's very important.
So join us next week as we discuss the third and final installment of this feminist novellas. We are almost done with the cringe, friends. We're almost done. It is called Below Zero.
Yeah, and we'll finally get to talk about the line that ruined us forever. The week after that, we are covering Den of Vipers by K.A. Knight, which is a real gear shift for us. We actually, neither of us have read this one yet.
But I do know that you do need to check your trigger warnings prior to reading this. It is a why choose dark romance, so I'm sure there will be things that is not everyone's cup of tea.
You know how those dark romances go. So yes, always check your triggers. Check your triggers before
Just
reading anything.
Check anything.
Let's be honest.
Ever.
Anyway, go ahead and get started on those. We'll talk to you next week. And as always,
let's get lit.